Yo, what's going on guys? This is Brent again, and this is tutorial number 16. In this tutorial, we're going to be talking about building an API and accessing it using token authentication. I'd like to thank Onken at Hikari, I hope I didn't butcher that, for recommending this. So the first thing we're going to do is create a new router for our APIs. So we're going to create a variable API equals express router, or express.router. And you know what, we're just going to copy this, paste it here, and then we're going to use, when anybody navigates to /API, they're going to go through the API router, and then it's going to be located, we're going to configure it in API.js in our routes, and it's going to get past the router, and it's also going to get past passport. So let's go ahead and make and configure our router here. So I'm going to create a new file and call it api.js. And then in here, we're going to do module.exports equals function that takes in our router and passport. And then we're going to do router.get, and this will be one of areas of our API. And we're just going to do a test API route for right now. And it's going to have a function that takes in request and response, and then it's going to respond with some JSON that says, I don't know what, secret data ABC123. So this will just be to test our API. Of course, in your case, you would do whatever you're going to be serving with your API here. So we'll save that. So now we have a functional API that is serving data. Let's just go ahead and test it right now. And if we go, we see that we get our data back, but that's not very good if we want to track who's accessing it, or for security reasons, we want it only accessible to certain people. So let's go ahead and secure it now. So in order to secure it, we're going to use a passport strategy, passport HTTP bearer. So it authenticates all HTTP requests with tokens, bearer tokens. So in order to do that, let's go ahead and kill our server and npm install passport HTTP bearer and save that. We'll let that download. Okay, so now that that's installed, go to your config passport.js file, and we're going to create a new variable and call it bearer strategy, and that equals require passport HTTP bearer and then dot strategy. Okay, so now we have that. We can go all the way to the bottom here and add a new strategy. But first, let me tell you a little bit about tokens. Now, what are tokens? Tokens are a unique authentication string that lets you tie a request to a specific user. So when a user signs up, they can get an access token that they can use to request data from our API server. So it's unique. Some of them expire, some of them don't. It just depends on however you want to do it. But whatever it is, you want to create some sort of token. In this situation, we're actually going to use the user ID for the user as the token is the for authentication. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do passport.use new bearer strategy, and then we're going to configure it in here. Actually, it'll be like this. Let's see if we can get back here. It'll be this. And then now we have our function here. So function brings the first parameter is the token, and the second parameter is the callback. And then so now we can actually configure it in here. So now using Mongo to access our Mongo database, we're going to use user.find1, where the ID matches our token, and then function error user. And so here now we've requested to see if our token matches any of our users. So if there is not a user, if no user, then return to our callback there's no error, but there was no user, so authentication is failed. Otherwise, we want to return to our callback, no errors, and our user, which means authentication has actually passed. Okay, so the next thing we have to do is configure our router to authenticate every request to our API to see if they have a valid token. So up here, we're just going to include some router middleware. So router.use, and it's going to do passport.authenticate, and it's going to use the bear strategy. And since we're using token authentication, we don't need sessions. So session is set to false. And so that is that. So now we just need a way to show our users the token that they need to use in order to access our API. So we'll go to our profile.ejs file, and right down here below our Google information, we're going to paste this piece of code. All it is saying is that it has a section called API tokens, and it shows the token, which is user.id _ID. So now we can test it. Let's log in with Facebook. It'll go to our profile page here, and now we have a section called the API token. We'll just go ahead and copy that. Now we're going to attempt to go to our API/API test. And since we haven't included the token, we are unauthorized. So all requests to this are unauthorized. Now, if we do access token equals and then put our token in, we can see now we can access our secret data in our API. So there you have it. That's API token authentication in like 7 minutes. So as a little bonus material here, let's go ahead and log all of our output to a log file. So we're going to import the file system for Node, require fs. And then we're going to create some middleware here. And so router.use, and then function, request, response, and next for middleware. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do fs.append file, and we're going to call the file logs.txt. So next is what we're actually going to put into the file. So we'll say, we'll do request.path plus token, and then request.query.access token, and then plus a new line. And then finally, we have a function here that's the callback with an error. And this is where we can call next here. So we'll save that and let's test it. So let's just reload a few times here. And then go to our logs.txt page. And now you can see that we've logged all of our paths to our API, which API was accessed, and the token for the user. So if something was to happen, maybe somebody was abusing it, we can figure out whose token is being abused and terminate that token. So that's it for this tutorial. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns that I didn't do it right, go ahead and put them in the comments below. If you like this video, you want to see more, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I appreciate the recommendation on this video. All y'all's support has been awesome, and I'll catch you guys next time.